The Kralzen survey vessel observance gaze hung silent in the churning atmosphere above Earth. Its cloaking field, usually impervious, felt flimsy, inadequate, against the sheer, overwhelming volume of the chaos unfolding below. What they witnessed defied every known law of sapient biology, every logical imperative for survival. It was a spectacle of mud, of pain, of raw, unadulterated, self-inflicted agony. Below, on a field churned into a viscous brown river by an incessant, hammering rain, humans thrashed. They called it the Gauntlet, a screaming primal tide of flesh and mud, battling not an external foe, but each other, and the very landscape itself. A hulking human, easily 3 times the mass of a standard Kralzen grunt, dove headfirst into a squirming pile of bodies. A cacophony of groans, shouts, and sickening thwacks erupted from the pile. The hulking figure's knee buckled with an audible snap, folding inward at an angle that made the Kralzen medic, Xylos, involuntarily retract all 4 of its delicate ocular stalks. Impossible, Xylos subvocalized, its internal stress monitors spiking. His tibia, his patella, they must be irrevocably shattered. There is no biological integrity remaining. Yet the human, somehow, dragged himself free. His face, smeared with a mix of mud, rain, and something darker that Xylos's bioscanners identified as freshly shed erythrocyte fluid, was contorted. But not in agony. No. It was a terrifying mask of fierce exhilaration, a grimace of pure, primal joy. He roared, a sound that vibrated through the observation deck, a deep, guttural sound of pure, unadulterated triumph, spitting a mouthful of earth and rain into the deluge. Another human, a lighter, more agile male, weaved through the struggling forms, dodging a flailing arm that could have snapped a lesser species' appendage. He planted a foot, precisely, on what appeared to be a slick, unstable metallic pipe, part of an obstacle course, designed, it seemed, solely to induce injury. His ankle twisted. The crack was distinct, even through the atmospheric interference, a sound the Kralzen understood universally as a signal for immediate medical intervention, for surrender, for cessation of all activity. But this human? He just gritted his teeth, a feral grin splitting his mud-caked face, and hopped forward, one leg now utterly useless, refusing to stop, his momentum carrying him towards another, even more dangerous-looking structure. He clawed his way up, a bloody handprint left on the slick metal. The entire event was utterly mesmerizing in its grotesque display. Commander Vilar, usually stoic, found its neural pathways overwhelmed. The stadium below erupted again, not in cries of alarm, but in uproarious cheers. Thousands of humans, themselves soaked and screaming, roared approval for the twisted limbs, the bloodied noses, the raw, exposed will of the competitors. They were celebrating the damage. They were reveling in the risk. It was madness, an unquantifiable, horrifying madness. Vilar's sensor suite registered not just spikes of adrenaline and cortisol, but also massive surges of endorphins, dopamine, and pure, undiluted joy emanating from the participating combatants. Their evolution, Voller finally concluded, its voice a low, heavy rumble across the silent bridge, echoing the terrifying truth. It must be forged in recreational suffering. This is how they thrive. Because for humans, it seemed, the biggest odds weren't against them. They invented them, they forged them. And then, with a terrifying, inexplicable grin, they set about beating them. The data streams from Earth were a blur of contradictions for the Kralzen analysts. After the Gauntlet, Commander Vilar had directed the observance gaze to focus on other human recreational activities. What they found was not solace, but further, deeper bewilderment. They observed what humans called ice hockey, a spectacle of controlled violence on a frozen surface. 2 human collectives, clad in thick padding, propelled themselves on blades, wielding sticks and slamming into each other with bone-shattering force. Sensors registered impacts that would pulverize the skeletal structure of a lesser species. A particularly brutal collision sent one human careening into the transparent barrier surrounding the playing field. The thud resonated even through the ship's hull, a dull, sickening sound. The human crumpled, a a grotesque heap of limbs and protective gear. The crowd, those thousands of vocal observers, didn't gasp in horror. They roared. A different kind of roar from the gauntlet. Sharper, more immediate, laced with a strange, bloodthirsty excitement. "Its cranium," Xylos whispered, its ocular stalks retracting further. "My diagnostics indicate a level 5 concussive trauma. Contusions on the cervical vertebrae, and it is attempting to stand." Indeed, the human, clearly disoriented, swayed, gripping its head, yet its eyes, even through the protective visor, were fixed not on the medics rushing towards it, but on the ongoing skirmish for the small black disc. It pushed away the medical personnel, staggering back into the fray, its movements clumsy, but fueled by an undeniable, primal urge. Its teammates clapped its back, shouting what Xylos's translator identified as phrases of encouragement. "Tough break, champ," one bellowed. "Get back in there," another yelled, almost cheerfully. Valar observed the replay, slowed down to fractional seconds. The moment of impact, the sickening contortion of the human body, the instant the brain rattled within its skull, and then the recovery. The choice to ignore the pain, to push past the physical limits. "They communicate through this," Valar mused, its vocalizer barely audible. "The broken bones, the twisted joints, these are not failures in their language. They are utterances of commitment, declarations of resilience." Another event unfolded on a different screen. Boxing. Two humans, stripped to minimal clothing, battered each other with padded fists in a confined ring. The sheer, deliberate intent to cause bodily harm was astounding. One human took a direct strike to the jaw. Xylos's scanners highlighted a hairline fracture in the mandible. The human spat blood, swayed, then smirked. A wide, defiant, terrible smirk. It spoke, its voice raspy but clear. "You call that all you got?" The very act of challenging further damage, inviting it, was beyond alien comprehension. They watched as the human absorbed more blows, its face swelling, its body undoubtedly screaming, yet its eyes burned with an unyielding fire. This wasn't just survival. It was an act of audacious defiance, a performance of sheer will over the screaming protests of their own biology. Valar had seen species fight to the death to protect their young or their territory. But to inflict such damage upon themselves, for sport, for the cheers of a crowd, for an abstract victory, it defied all reason. "They speak through pain," Valar reiterated, the truth settling with a cold, unnerving weight. "Their language is one of endurance, of shattering limits. To understand humans, one must first learn the grammar of their broken bones and the terrifying joy they find in earning them." This wasn't just resilience. It was a chosen, cultivated brutality, a testament to a species that saw discomfort not as a warning, but as a challenge to be conquered. The Asterix observance gaze had descended, not in elevation, but into an even deeper pit of incomprehension. Their previous observations of self-inflicted harm now seemed almost organized. Clinical. What unfolded in the arena was primal, raw, a dust-choked testament to human madness. Commander Valar, Xylos, and the rest of the crew watched, transfixed. As a new spectacle began, they called it bull riding. A beast of pure, muscled fury, weighing over 1,000 Earth kilograms, burst from its chute. Its hide rippled with barely contained power, its horns sharp, its intent clear, to dislodge and crush. On its back, a single human. No weapons, no armor, save for a worn leather glove and the impossible grip of one hand wrapped around a rope, cinched to the bull's massive chest. The air crackled, thick with the scent of dirt, sweat, and a strange metallic tang. The bull bucked. It twisted. It spun with a violence that defied physics, a living, snorting tornado of muscle and rage. Each impact sent shockwaves through the human's body, visible even on the long-range scanners. Ribs groaned under the strain. Vertebrae compressed. Tendons stretched to breaking point. Xylos's readings flashed red with concussive forces, muscular tearing, and potential bone fractures. The neural network is being overloaded. Xylos reported, its voice a low whir. This human cannot possibly retain consciousness. Not under this torture. Yet, the human held. For 7 agonizing, eternity-stretching seconds, he clung on, a defiant speck against a mountain of furious animal. His body was a whip, absorbing the blows, counteracting the spins, fueled by an intensity that made the *Kralzen* shiver. His face, visible for a split second as the bull twisted again, was a mask of grim determination, teeth gritted, eyes narrowed, a glint of something terrifyingly akin to *joy sparking in their depths. Then, inevitably, he was thrown, launched high into the dusty air, a ragdoll against the vast blue sky. He hit the ground with a sickening thud that reverberated through the observance gaze. The crowd, those thousands of screaming humans packed into the arena, didn't flinch. They roared louder, a thunderous wave of sound washing over the arena. Medics rushed in, but the human was already pushing himself up, slowly, painfully, his arm clutched to his side. His movements were ragged, a clear indicator of severe damage, but his eyes were fixed not on his injury, but on the departing bull. A wry, blood-streaked grin split his lips. "Damn! That was a good one," he rasped, his voice raw but triumphant, as other humans helped him limp away, clapping him on the back, offering words of congratulations. Vilar watched, processing. The data streams confirmed the injury. A dislocated shoulder, several fractured ribs. Yet the human's psychological profile showed no regret, no fear, only immense satisfaction. This wasn't just resilience. It was a chosen confrontation, a deliberate dance with oblivion. They don't just endure suffering, Vilar concluded, the realization chilling its very core. They seek it. They define themselves by how much they can take, how close they can come to breaking, and still come back, grinning. For humans, the arena isn't just a place to compete. It's where they confirm their very existence. It was a horrifying, beautiful truth. Humans were forged in the dust and the pain, finding their identity in the defiance of physical limits. The observance gaze shifted, its sensors now focused on a new spectacle unfolding on a meticulously manicured green field. The humans called it American football. Commander Voller had directed the analysis of the previous bull-riding event, baffled by the individual's pursuit of suffering. Now, it was clear. The pain was not always a solo performance. It was a communal act, amplified by the staggering weight of the crowd's gaze. 2 distinct collectives, armored in hard plastic and thick padding, clashed in a series of short, explosive bursts of violence. The objective, Vilar understood, was to move an ovoid sphere across a painted line. But the dista method was what truly astonished. Each advance was preceded by a collision, a human-shaped battering ram slamming into another, often with multiple participants. The sounds of impact registered even through the atmospheric interference, a sickening thump-thump crack as bodies met. Xylos's medical scanners were in a constant state of alarm. "Commander, Subject B7 Delta has sustained another Grade 2 cervical sprain. Repeated head impacts. This individual will accumulate irreversible neurological damage." And yet, he smiles. Indeed, a hulking human, his helmet momentarily askew, exposing a face beaded with sweat and grime, let out a joyous bellow after driving his opponent into the turf. His teammates slapped his helmet, celebrating the brutal efficiency. Then came the moment that truly distilled the human paradox. A smaller, faster human carrying the ovoid sphere weaved through the defensive line. He was a blur of motion, dodging, feinting. But then, a wall of opponents converged. A tackle of unbelievable force brought him down. Not just down, but slammed into the ground, his body twisting unnaturally, the weight of 3 other humans pinning him. A collective gasp, then an even louder roar, erupted from the thousands in the stands. The human lay there, unmoving for a beat, a collective silence holding the arena. The crowd's gaze was a palpable force, a tangible pressure that settled over the field. Voller's sensors detected a spike in collective human anticipation, not fear, but a strange, expectant hunger. This wasn't concern for injury, it was the silent demand for sorks. Then, slowly, Agonizingly, the human pushed himself up. He swayed, favoring one leg, his helmet knocked completely off, revealing a raw, determined face. He looked at his teammates, then, remarkably, he raised a clenched fist to the roaring crowd. A defiant, triumphant gesture, signaling he was not broken, not yet. The roar intensified, shaking the very structure of the arena. They are performing for each other, Villar realized, its voice a low thrum. The pain, the damage, it is a currency. A badge of honor bestowed by the multitude. The crowd's gaze doesn't deter them, it fuels them. It demands their suffering, and they willingly, joyfully, deliver. This wasn't just individual resilience. It was a societal pact, a horrific contract of shared, recreational agony. Humans, it seemed, didn't just endure their pain. They wore it like a crown, especially when the whole world was watching. The asterisk observance gaze had catalogued human aggression, human resilience, and humanity's baffling joy in self-inflicted pain. But what unfolded next was a new peak of calculated, glorious madness. They called it Demolition Derby, and it was a ballet of destruction, a symphony of crashing steel, where the humans themselves were the conductors, orchestrating their own glorious demise, or so it seemed. From the observation deck, Commander Villar and its crew watched in stunned silence as a dozen wheeled contraptions, once elegant personal transport vehicles now reduced to hulking reinforced battering rams, roared into an enclosed dirt arena. Their engines screamed, spitting black exhaust into the sky. The air, even filtered through the asterisk observance gaze advanced environmental systems, seemed to thrum with the primal throb of gasoline-fueled fury. The objective, as Xylos's real-time translation indicated, was terrifyingly simple: be the last operational vehicle. The Sopper method was utterly barbaric. They slammed into each other. Deliberately. Head-on collisions, T-bones, glancing blows that sent showers of sparks and crumpled metal flying. The sheer, ear-splitting noise was a physical assault. A cacophony of groaning steel, shattering glass, and tortured machinery. Each impact registered on the ship's hull, a dull, concussive thud that made the asterisk Kralzen asterisk flinch. Inside one particular vehicle, a battered, sickly green pickup truck, the human driver, designated Subject GAMMA9, was a whirlwind of controlled chaos. Its head, encased in a thick, multi-layered helmet of hardened polymers and steel, seemed to be the only stable point in a world of violent motion. From the Kralzen asterisk perspective, observing through high-resolution internal sensors, Gamma 9's world was a constant, brutal assault. The vehicle shuddered, vibrating with the roar of its oversized engine. A quick glance from Gamma 9, a flick of its eyes visible through the visor, before it slammed its foot down. The truck lunged forward, a predator seeking prey. Crunch! It T-boned a smaller, red sedan. The impact rattled Gamma 9's entire skeleton. Xylos's medical readings flared with G-force alerts, potential whiplash, microfractures in the neck vertebrae. Yet GAMMA9 merely grunted, a short, sharp expulsion of air. "Eat dirt, pal," its vocalizations translated, laced with what could only be described as pure, unadulterated glee. The vehicle spun, its tires digging into the dirt before GAMMA9 wrestled it into position again. The driver's hands, gloved and calloused, moved with a terrifying precision on the steering wheel, despite the continuous, jarring impacts. Its eyes, narrowed to slits of intense focus within the steel head of the helmet, darted between targets. The smell of burning rubber, leaking coolant, and overheated oil filled the small cabin, a choking, acrid stench. Another vehicle, a mangled station wagon, tried to back into GAMMA9. The human driver didn't evade. It privated the assault, reversing full throttle, transforming the impact into a deliberate counterattack. The bang was deafening. The station wagon's rear axle snapped, leaving it immobile, steam hissing from its fractured radiator. Gamma 9's head snapped back, then forward, against the reinforced headrest. A slight tremor ran through its body, but its eyes, within that steel shell, sparkled. Villar observed the neurological readings. Adrenaline was surging, yes, but so were powerful waves of dopamine and serotonin. This wasn't merely survival, It was a deliberate embrace of the edge, a calculated dance with catastrophe. "They are seeking mastery over chaos," Valar concluded, its voice a low hum. Within the confines of that steelhead, in a world designed to break them, they find their greatest triumphs. They don't just endure, they conquer the destruction around them by becoming part of it. The asterisk observance gaze had witnessed humans break each other. Now they watched them break themselves, willingly, under monumental self-imposed strain. The arena was a vast open space, scattered with monstrous implements. A singular human stood before a barbell laden with discs of metal that shimmered under the arena lights. An impossible tower of iron. The humans called this powerlifting, and this event, the deadlift, was a testament to raw, defiant strength. Commander Valar found its optical sensors drawn to the human. Designated subject, KAPPA-7. Massive. Bulging muscles strained beneath its thin garment, veins like subterranean rivers traced pathways across its neck and arms. The weight on the bar was a staggering 400 Earth kilograms. Xylos's predictive algorithm screamed, "Commander, the human's musculoskeletal system cannot endure this stress. Ligamentous tears, vertebral compression, potential aortic dissection. The probability of catastrophic failure is 97%. Yet, KAPPA-7 approached the bar. Its movements were slow, deliberate, a ritual. It bent, gripping the cold steel, its knuckles white, its breath coming in ragged, deep gasps. The silence in the arena was absolute, broken only by the rhythmic thumping of Kappa 7's own heart, amplified by the asterisk observance gaze advanced audio pickups. The air crackled with a tension that was almost physical. Every single human in the stands was leaning forward, their own breath held, their collective will focused on this single agonizing attempt. Then, KAPPA-7 braced. Its back locked, its eyes squeezed shut in concentration, a low, guttural growl escaping its lips. It pulled. The plates on the bar clanged, a soft, protesting sound, as the immense weight grudgingly lifted from the floor. Kappa 7's face contorted, a mask of pure, primal effort. Veins pulsed in its temples. Blood vessels near its eyes burst, tiny crimson spiderwebs spreading across the sclera. Its spine, Xylos noted with horror, showed microfractures forming in real time. A sudden, sharp pop echoed through the arena, barely audible beneath the straining muscles. Kappa 7's left knee buckled inwards, a sickening lurch. Xylos's diagnostics instantly flashed a level 3 meniscus tear, a likely rupture of the collateral ligament. "It is failing! Commander, the structural integrity of the lower limb is compromised." But the human didn't collapse. It didn't stop. Its jaw clenched, a defiant snarl replacing the mask of pain. With a raw, animalistic surge of will, it straightened its back, locking the weight at its full extension. The bar hung there, an emblem of impossible defiance, for a single agonizing second. Then, with a roar that tore through the silence, KAPPA-7 dropped the weight. The crash was deafening, shaking the very floor of the arena. Kappa 7 stood, swaying, one leg obviously compromised, blood now seeping from its nose and eyes, but its arms were raised in triumph. Its face, bruised and battered by its own effort, was split by a wide, delirious grin. The crowd erupted, a deafening wave of cheers and applause, validating the suffering, celebrating the breach of self-preservation. Valar observed the incredible data. Catastrophic physical trauma, yet the human's emotional output was pure ecstasy. "They push beyond the limits of their own design," Valar murmured, the revelation chilling. "They seek the edge of structural collapse, not to break, but to prove they can survive it. For humans, pain is not a barrier. It is the crucible in which their spirit is forged. The splintering of bone, the tearing of muscle, these are merely the cost of proving how utterly unbreakable they truly are. They didn't just endure. They demanded more of themselves than any logical being would consider sane." The asterisk observance gaze had catalogued the shock of impact, the snap of bone, the glorious roar of steel. But a new spectacle unfolded, subtler, yet arguably more terrifying. Here, on a winding, sun-baked course stretching across kilometers of desolate terrain, humans pursued a different kind of pain. They called it endurance racing. And it was the burning in their lungs that truly baffled the Kralzane. From the silent bridge, Commander Villar observed, its optical sensor zoomed in on subject row 4, a human female. She was in motion, a relentless, rhythmic forward drive, her body a blur of sweat and strained muscle. Her pace was impossible. Hour after hour, under a sun that beat down with merciless intensity, she ran. Her face, visible through the haze of heat, was a mask of suffering, yet her eyes held a fierce, unyielding light. Xylos's readings were a constant cascade of alarms. Commander, subject row 4's core temperature is elevated. Muscular tissue shows signs of micro-tearing. Her lactate levels are extreme, indicative of severe metabolic stress. And her pulmonary system, it is operating at maximum capacity, continuously. Her lungs are burning. Xylos's vocalizations held a tremor of genuine distress. The diagnostic feedback painted a picture of a creature actively dismantling its own biological systems. Row 4's footfalls were a steady drumbeat on the dry earth, each step a testament to sheer, unadulterated willpower. Her chest heaved, pulling in great gulps of hot, dusty air. She wasn't merely breathing. She was fighting for every molecule of oxygen. The sound, amplified by asterisk observance gaze, long-range microphones, was a ragged, desperate rasp. Her legs, once powerful, now moved with a raw, mechanical defiance, each stride a battle against cramping muscles and the screaming protest of her own biology. A fellow runner, another human male, stumbled and fell just ahead. He writhed on the ground, clutching his leg, a raw cry escaping his lips. Any other species, faced with such internal and external agony, would cease, would surrender to the overwhelming biological imperative to stop. But RHO4? She slowed, just for a moment, her gaze sweeping over the fallen runner. A flicker of something akin to sympathy, but quickly overtaken by a hardened resolve. She simply gritted her teeth, a faint, almost imperceptible nod of acknowledgement, and pushed past, her eyes fixed on some invisible point far ahead. "Are they without compassion?" Xylos questioned, its vocalizer thin. "No," Villar rumbled, observing the internal struggle etched on row 4's face. "They understand. They acknowledge the suffering, because they are experiencing it themselves, but they choose to endure it, to move through it." The sensory input from row 4's nervous system showed a constant, overwhelming onslaught of pain signals. Yet, interwoven with it were surges of dopamine and a powerful, inexplicable sense of purpose. This wasn't the explosive short-term pain of collision. This was a sustained, grinding agony, a slow-motion unraveling of the self. Villar watched as RHO4, nearing the finish line, no longer ran but dragged herself forward, a staggering, defiant automaton, her vision blurred, her body screaming. But then, a primal roar tore from her throat, a sound of pure, raw defiance. She crossed the line, collapsing into the arms of waiting humans, her body racked with tremors, her lungs still burning. Yet on her mud-streaked, tear-streaked face was a look of profound, unblemished triumph. They are not just pushing limits, Valar concluded, the understanding settling deep in its core. They are redefining them with every agonizing breath. For humans, the suffering isn't the consequence of the sport. It causes the sport. It's how they find themselves, in the searing heart of their own self-inflicted fire. The asterisk observance gaze hovered, its sensors struggling to interpret the latest human ritual. Gone were the mud-choked fields and the shattering impacts of steel. Now humanity engaged in something far more insidious, a prolonged, multi-stage assault on their own biology. They called it a triathlon. And the suffering was a slow, deliberate act of devotion. Subject Epsilon 2, a human male, emerged from the churning cold of the ocean, his skin mottled blue-red, his muscles screaming. The swim, miles of bone-chilling water, had been a continuous battle against hypothermia and lactic acid. Now, he stumbled onto the beach, stripping his wetsuit with fumbling, numb fingers, his entire body shaking. Xylos's readings were horrifying. Commander, core temperature dangerously low, acute muscular fatigue, electrolyte imbalance. He should be immobile, seeking warmth. Yet, Epsilon 2 didn't stop. He transitioned, with a grim determination that defied his body's protests, onto a sleek, two-wheeled contraption. The bicycle. For hours, he pedaled, a relentless piston of muscle and bone. The sun beat down, baking the road, heating his already taxed system. His legs, already heavy from the swim, burned with an inferno that transcended mere discomfort. Every upward incline was a fresh torment, every downstroke a searing testament to his will. His eyes, fixed straight ahead, were glazed, but never unfocused. The repetitive motion, the endless grind of the pedals, became a mantra, a silent, desperate prayer to his failing body to simply keep moving. His physiological output is degrading rapidly, Xylos reported, its vocalizer barely suppressing a wail. His heart rate is extreme, consistently. The fatigue toxins are saturating his system, yet his cerebral activity shows an elevated state of focus, almost a trance. Indeed, Epsilon 2's world had narrowed. The crowds, the passing scenery, even the gnawing pain in his quadriceps and hamstrings, began to fade. There was only the blur of the road, the rhythmic squeak of his bicycle chain, and the fierce internal battle. His body, by all logical accounts, was screaming for cessation, but his mind, a defiant, stubborn entity, refused. It was as if his very consciousness had detached, observing the physical collapse with a detached, yet utterly resolute, will. Finally, the cycling leg ended. Epsilon 2 dismounted, his legs collapsing beneath him, rubbery and unresponsive. He fell, picked himself up, stumbled again. The transition to the final stage, the long-distance run, was agonizing. His gait was a shuffling, broken thing, each step an individual act of monumental effort. The burning in his lungs, which had been a constant companion through the swim and bike, now became a desperate, searing plea for air. His body, starved of oxygen, screamed. He passed another human, slumped by the side of the road, vomiting. Epsilon 2's eyes acknowledged, not with pity, but with a deep, silent understanding. "I know your pain," that look seemed to say, "and I choose to keep going." His own stomach roiled. His vision tunneled. Every nerve ending in his body fired warnings, but his legs kept moving, a slow, agonizing forward momentum that had transcended mere athletics. It was a primal march, a silent internal prayer to a higher, more demanding self. Vilar observed the incredible data. Physical collapse was imminent, yet the human's emotional and psychological output was, paradoxically, soaring. This wasn't merely defiance, it was transcendence. They are not just pushing their bodies, Vilar concluded, the awe clear in its resonant tones. They are pushing their souls. They make their body a vessel of suffering, a canvas for their unbreakable will. When the pain is too great to ignore, too vast to overcome by mere strength, the human body becomes a prayer, a silent testament to the spirit that refuses to yield. This, Xylos, is how they are truly forged. The asterisk observance gaze had witnessed humans battling mud, beasts, and their own endurance. But this new spectacle, dodgeball, added a layer of bewildering absurdity. Here, in a brightly lit, confined space, humans willingly subjected themselves to being struck by thrown projectiles. Not sharp, not lethal, but undeniably painful. And the sound, the thud of the rubber ball, over and over, was a relentless, percussive symphony of self-inflicted sting. Commander Vilar zoomed its optical sensors onto the arena. Two groups of humans, divided by a central line, clutched an array of brightly colored rubber spheres. The air crackled, not with the primal fury of a bull ride, but with a strange, giddy anticipation. Then, a whistle shrilled. The humans surged forward. Subject Zeta 12, a lean, agile female, moved like a dancer, dodging a rapid volley of red and blue projectiles. A ball, thrown with surprising force by a male opponent, zipped past her head, missing by mere millimeters. Another one, a yellow sphere, slammed into her hip. The thud was sickening. Xylos's diagnostics immediately flagged a localized contusion, superficial bruising, and a sharp spike in pain receptors. "Commander, the human has been struck," Xylos reported, its vocalizer tinted with concern. "A direct impact designed to inflict minor, but acute, trauma. Yet, Zeta-12 didn't cry out. She didn't falter. A gasp escaped her lips, yes, but it was followed by a sharp, almost delighted laugh. She quickly retrieved a stray ball, her eyes narrowed with fierce intent, and launched it back across the line, targeting the male who had hit her. "Gotcha!" she yelled, her voice raw with competitive glee. The ball struck him squarely in the chest, eliciting a grunt and a grin of his own. The aliens watched, utterly perplexed. These impacts, while not bone-breaking, were clearly uncomfortable. They left welts, they left temporary pain. And the humans reveled in it. They ducked and weaved with frenetic energy. But when inevitably struck, the reaction was never fear, never true anger. It was always a mix of grim acceptance and a renewed, almost joyful aggression. One human, struck squarely in the face, merely wiped his nose, spat out a bit of blood, and rejoined the fray, a wild glint in his eyes. Valar observed the neurological scans. The initial pain response was undeniable, but it was immediately overridden by surges of adrenaline, endorphins, and intense gratification. This wasn't just resilience, it was a bizarre form of emotional alchemy. They were converting minor physical agony into something akin to fun. "They seek the sting," Valar concluded, its voice a low thrum. "The precise, controlled, momentary discomfort. It confirms their reflexes, their speed, their ability to withstand." The thud of that rubber ball is not a punishment, Xylos, it is a validation. A quick, sharp reminder that they are alive, they are competing, and they are, in their own terrifying way, enjoying every single painful second of it. For humans, the battle wasn't just against the opponent, it was against their own comfort, a constant joyful engagement with the edge of pain. The Asterisk Observance Gaze hung in synchronous orbit, its mission nearing its bewildering conclusion. Commander Valar had processed gigabytes of data on human suffering, voluntarily embraced. But the final spectacle they observed, high above a shimmering expanse of water, transcended all previous comprehension. They called it cliff diving, a sport so utterly terrifyingly simple in its premise, it felt like a challenge directed at the very concept of mortality. Subject NU6, a human male, stood on a precarious ledge hundreds of meters above a churning ocean. The sheer vertical drop was dizzying even for the Kralzen advanced optical systems. Below, the water looked like a solid, unforgiving surface. A single misstep, a flicker of hesitation, and the consequence was absolute, irreversible obliteration. The air, crisp and cold at this altitude, carried no sound from the distant crowd below, only the faint whisper of the wind against Nu-6's bare skin. Xylos's internal diagnostic systems were in full meltdown. Quote, "Commander, the human's limbic system is screaming. Every primal instinct for self-preservation is firing simultaneously. Acrophobia levels are off the charts. Yet he makes no move to retreat. He leans forward." Indeed, NU6 seemed to gather himself. His body, honed and lean, tensed. His gaze, fixed on the distant water, held a strange mixture of terror and fierce, unwavering resolve. He closed his eyes for a single beat, a silent communion with the void, and then, with a fluid, terrifying grace, he launched himself into the air. He fell. For agonizing seconds, NU6 was a plummeting speck against the vast blue, a trajectory of pure, unadulterated acceleration. His body twisted, perfectly controlled, cutting through the air. The speed was immense, building with every meter. The Asterisk Observance Gaze tracked his descent, the G-forces on his fragile frame rapidly escalating. Xylos predicted severe internal hemorrhaging, a complete systemic shock upon impact. Then came the strike. Not a gentle splash, but a violent, concussive, that resonated across the sensors. The water, at that velocity, became a hammer, slamming into Nu-6's body with the force of solid rock. His form momentarily compressed, a ripple of shockwave traveling through the liquid. He disappeared beneath the surface, leaving only a turbulent plume of foam. A collective gasp, then a roar, erupted from the minuscule human figures far below. Time stretched. Then a head broke the surface. NU6, he gasped, sucking in air, his face pale, his limbs trembling from the sheer impact. He pushed through the pain, through the dizzying disorientation, and raised a single, defiant arm to the distant, cheering crowd. A wide, exhausted, absolutely exultant grin split his face. Villar watched the data streams of new sixes' immediate aftermath. Pain was immense. Adrenaline coursed. But overshadowing it all was a massive surge of dopamine, of pure, unparalleled elation. This wasn't merely surviving, it was conquering the most primal fear imaginable. They do not simply endure suffering, Villar finally articulated, its voice low and heavy, filled with a new, profound, and utterly terrifying understanding. They engineer it. They build it into their very existence. They confront death. They flirt with annihilation, and they laugh in its face. This is their proving ground. Their evolution through self-inflicted agony is not a theory, Xylos. It is their undeniable truth. They play games of pain, not for mere survival, but for the sheer, glorious, terrifying joy of knowing they can endure. For humans, suffering is not a flaw in the design. It is the ultimate game, a contest of spirit that truly is a game for the gods themselves. The asterisk observance gaze had logged endless variations of human suffering. They'd seen the mud, the crashes, the slow, agonizing burn of endurance. But now, in a brightly lit, hexagonal cage, humans introduced a new, profoundly disturbing element: the taste of their own blood. This they called mixed martial arts, and it was a distilled, brutal art form of self-inflicted damage. Commander Villar focused its optical sensors on Subject Sigma-3, a human male, lean but coiled with explosive power. He stood opposite another human, both clad only in minimal shorts and padded gloves. The air in the arena was electric, thick with expectation and the acrid scent of sweat. Then, the signal. The two humans collided. Sigma-3 moved with astonishing speed, a flurry of strikes and feints. But his opponent, larger and equally vicious, met him blow for blow. A roundhouse kick, delivered with enough force to shatter the femur of a Kralzin, glanced off Sigma-3's ribs. The thwack was sickening. Xylos's diagnostics immediately reported severe bruising, potential cartilage damage, and an explosive spike in pain signals. Commander, that impact, it was devastating. Why does he not fall? Sigma-3 grunted, a short, sharp expulsion of breath, but he didn't falter. He pressed forward, closing the distance, trapping his opponent against the wire mesh wall of the cage. He delivered a rapid series of short, powerful blows. But then, an elbow, sharp and unexpected, slashed across Sigma-3's eyebrow. The skin broke. A thin, crimson line welled, then blossomed, spilling down his temple, tracing a path towards his eye. A drop, warm and metallic, hit his lip. Sigma-3 recoiled for a split second, not from pain, but from the sudden, visceral sensation. His tongue instinctively licked it away. The taste, the distinct coppery tang of his own blood. From the Kralzin asterisk perspective, observing through high-resolution internal sensors, the taste should have been a final, undeniable warning. A signal to cease, to retreat, to tend to the wound. But for Sigma-3, something else happened. His eyes, previously narrowed in concentration, widened slightly. A primal spark ignited within them. The taste of his own blood wasn't a deterrent, it was an accelerant. A low, guttural growl vibrated in his throat, amplified by asterisk observance gaze audio. "You want blood?" he rasped, his voice raw, yet laced with a terrifying, almost predatory glee. "You got it!" He lunged, no longer calculated, no longer merely tactical. This was instinct, raw and brutal. He pressed his opponent against the cage again, unleashing a volley of strikes, each one infused with a new, savage intensity. His own blood, still trickling, stained his cheek, a grim badge of honor. The crowd erupted, sensing the shift, recognizing the moment. This wasn't just a fight anymore, it was a revelation. Villar observed the incredible data. The pain signals were still there, screaming, but they were now utterly overshadowed by an overwhelming surge of aggression, determination, and a strange, dark joy. They embraced the wound, Villar concluded, its voice a low, heavy rumble. The taste of their own blood is not a sign of defeat, Xylos. It is a promise, a declaration. It fuels them, invigorates them. For humans, to taste your own blood in battle is not a horror. It is a primal communion with the very essence of their relentless, brutal spirit. It is the taste of true, defiant life. The asterisk observance gaze had witnessed humans battling the brutal honesty of the cage. Now they observed a different kind of combat, one cloaked in a veneer of grace and precision, yet no less savage in its demands. This was crew rowing, a spectacle unfolding on a long, placid river, where the elegance of synchronized motion masked an internal shared agony. 8 humans, designated as a single unit, sat in a long, impossibly slender vessel. Their movements were a single, fluid symphony. Oars dipped into the water with a rhythmic whoosh, propelling the boat forward with deceptive speed. From a distance, it looked almost peaceful, a serene dance on the water. But Commander Vilar knew better. The microsensors, trained on subject Tau 1, the stroke, who set the pace, told a different story. Tau 1's face, beneath a visor designed to shield against the relentless sun, was a study in controlled torment. Every stroke was a full-body exertion, legs exploding, back flexing, arms pulling. Sweat poured down its face, stinging its eyes, yet its gaze remained locked forward, unblinking. Xylos's diagnostics flashed red. Commander, Tau 1's pulmonary system is near collapse. Cardiovascular output is at critical levels. Muscular lactic acid accumulation is causing widespread systemic cramping, and yet its biomechanical efficiency remains at 99.8%. The collective grunts of the crew, amplified by asterisk observance gaze long-range audio, became a relentless primal rhythm beneath the deceptive quiet of the river. Push! Now, asterisk the human coxswain, a smaller, lighter human perched at the stern, barking commands, yelled, its voice raw with urgency. Legs! Feel the burn! Give me everything! Tau 1's body shuddered with the effort. Every muscle fiber screamed. The searing ache in its quadriceps was a constant blinding fire. Its lungs burned as if filled with molten lead. Each breath was a struggle, a desperate gasp for air that never quite felt enough. Its vision began to tunnel at the edges, the world narrowing to the insistent sweep of the oar, the blurred back of the rower in front, and the relentless, driving rhythm. It tasted salt, from its own sweat, and a metallic tang, from the sheer exertion of its overloaded capillaries. Another boat, another collective of humans, slowly gained on their flank. Tau 1 registered it, not with panic, but with a renewed, fierce determination. Its eyes, burning holes in its skull, met the coxswain's gaze for a fleeting second. A silent agreement passed between them. We will not break. Rate up! The coxswain screamed, its voice cracking. 50 strokes per minute! Drive! Drive! Asterisk! Tau 1 found a reserve it didn't know it possessed. A primal, instinctual refusal to yield. Its movements, impossibly, became even more powerful, its face contorting into a mask of pure, unadulterated suffering and savage will. Its teammates, all enduring the same inferno, mirrored its ferocious intensity, pulling as one, their collective groans blending into a single, terrifying hymn of defiance. Vilar observed the incredible data. The sustained physical torment was beyond anything a logical species would willingly embrace. Yet, the synchronized effort, the shared agony, forged an unbreakable bond, a powerful surge of collective purpose and triumph. They push each other to the brink, Vilar mused, the truth echoing in the silence of the bridge, not with fists, but with a silent mutual pact of agony. For humans, even brutality can be a gentleman's agreement, where the ultimate prize isn't just victory, but the raw, unyielding testament of a spirit that refuses to be broken, no matter how elegant the setting. The asterisk observance gaze had witnessed human suffering in every conceivable form, but the current spectacle added a new deafening dimension, the mechanical roar of their iron horses. This was motocross, and it was a ballet of controlled catastrophe, played out on a treacherous, purpose-built dirt track. From the silent bridge, Commander Vilar and its crew watched in stunned bewilderment. Below, a swarm of powerful two-wheeled machines, each carrying a single armored human, tore around a course designed to break bones and shatter pride. The air, even filtered through the gaze's advanced atmospheric processors, thrummed with the raw, guttural scream of internal combustion engines, a sound that vibrated deep in the Kralksen sensorium. The smell of burning fuel and churned earth was thick, visceral. Subject X-15, a human male, was a blur of fluorescent green and black armor. He wrestled his iron horse around a hairpin turn, leaning so far his knees scraped the ground, the rear wheel kicking up a rooster tail of mud and grit. His vision, observed through helmet cam feeds, was a tunnel of speed, focus, and imminent danger. The machine bucked, vibrating violently, a barely tamed beast beneath him. Then came the jump, a massive ramp of packed dirt, launching the rider and machine 20 meters into the sky. Z5 hit the lip, his body absorbing the shock, then hanging suspended for a terrifying, weightless moment. Xylos's diagnostics flared. "Commander, the impact forces on landing will exceed safe thresholds. Spinal compression, potential limb fractures, the risk is astronomical." But XI-5 didn't hesitate. He arced through the air, his body a fluid extension of the roaring machine, a primal scream of exhilaration escaping his lips, audible even through the wind noise. He landed hard, the impact jolting his entire skeletal structure. A grunt escaped him, a sharp gasp of effort and pain, but his throttle hand immediately twisted, sending another surge of power to the rear wheel. "Yeah! That's it!" His internal microphone picked up, laced with raw, defiant joy. Another rider, directly ahead of XI-5, misjudged a corner. His iron horse skidded sideways, pitching the human violently into the dirt. A sickening thud resonated. The crowd, a chaotic mass of screaming humans around the track, collectively gasped, then roared, not in horror but in a strange, expectant frenzy. Z5, instead of slowing, instantly adapted. He swerved, narrowly avoiding the downed rider and his mangled machine, his own trajectory now thrown off balance. He fought for control, his bike fishtailing wildly. His body became a living counterweight, shifting, straining, refusing to succumb. Dirt and rocks pelted his visor, obscuring his vision, but he powered through, his grip on the handlebars like iron, his eyes narrowed into slits of pure, unadulterated will. The smell of his own sweat and the metallic tang of adrenaline filled his helmet. Veller watched the incredible data. Every cell in G5's body was screaming warnings. The cumulative damage, the constant impacts, the ever-present threat of catastrophic failure. Yet, his psychological profile showed an overwhelming surge of exhilaration, of fierce determination. This wasn't just a sport, it was a communion between man and machine, a test of raw, unyielding will. "They ride the edge of oblivion," Valar concluded, its voice a low thrum, imbued with a fresh wave of terrifying understanding. "They master chaos, not by avoiding it, but by embracing its full, brutal force." The roar of the iron horse is not a warning, Xylos. It is their battle cry. For humans, the most exhilarating ride is always the one that brings them closest to breaking, only to prove, yet again, that they simply refuse to. The observance gaze had witnessed the individual's battle against the self. Now, on a polished hardwood court, they watched humans wage war for a shared goal, an abstract victory, through a barrage of controlled collisions. This was basketball, a high-velocity dance of agility and impact, where the true revelation was not the breaking of bone, but the unyielding spirit that bound them. Commander Velar focused its optical sensors on Subject Omega-7, a human male, a blur of motion in a brightly colored uniform. The air in the enclosed arena vibrated with the squeal of athletic footwear, the rhythmic thump of a spherical projectile, and the roar of a fervent crowd. Omega-7 moved with impossible fluidity, weaving through opponents, then soaring, muscles coiling, to slam the ball through an elevated hoop. The crowd erupted, a thunderous wave of sound washing over the court. Xylos's diagnostics continuously flagged microtraumas. Constant impacts, brutal shifts in direction, knees and ankles bending at alarming angles. "Commander, the cumulative stress on their joints is immense." Subject Omega-7 has sustained multiple contusions this rotation alone, and the impact forces from their vertical maneuvers dangerous. Omega-7 landed, pivoting instantly. He moved to defend, tracking an opposing human. The other human, equally agile, faked a move, then lunged. Their bodies collided with a sickening thud. Omega-7 stumbled, then fell hard, twisting at an unnatural angle. A sharp, distinct grack echoed, even over the crowd's sudden collective gasp. His ankle. It buckled, folding inward in a grotesque manner. He cried out, a raw, primal sound of pain, as he collapsed onto the shining court. The game stopped. The arena fell into a stunned silence, broken only by Omega-7's ragged gasps. Medics rushed onto the court, their faces etched with concern. Omega-7 writhed for a moment, clutching his visibly swelling ankle. Xylos's readings confirmed it. A spiral fracture of the fibula, severe ligamentous tearing. Commander, his lower limb is incapacitated. The individual cannot possibly continue. This is a career-ending injury. But Omega-7, even as pain radiated through his entire body, pushed away the medics. His face, slick with sweat and contorted in agony, was fixed not on his injury but on the scoreboard. His team was down by a single point. His eyes, burning with fierce, unyielding light, scanned his teammates. "No, I'm fine," he rasped, trying to push himself up, teeth gritted, a defiant snarl on his face. "Just tape it. I'm good." A teammate, another burly human, rushed over, kneeling beside him. "Omega-7, it's done, man. You're out." Omega-7's head snapped up, his gaze locking with his teammates. "No, not yet. Not while we're still in it. Just get me to the line. I can shoot free throws. I can try." His voice, though strained, held an unshakable conviction, a plea that went beyond physical capability. Vilar observed the incredible data, overwhelming pain, catastrophic injury, yet his psychological profile showed an unprecedented surge of self-sacrifice and unwavering resolve directed not at personal glory, but at the collective. This wasn't merely defiance, it was an act of profound, almost irrational loyalty. "The physical form may be broken," Vel concluded, its voice a low, heavy rumble, carrying the weight of a staggering new understanding. "But the core, the heart of the human, it remains unchanging. Even in recreational suffering, when all logic demands surrender, they defy their own biology for the sake of the collective. This, heart, Xylos, is what allows them to not just endure pain, but to transform it into the fuel for an unbreakable, shared purpose. It is the most terrifying and perhaps most beautiful aspect of their evolution,